Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. The recent mining changes continue to be a source of confusion for many of us. Now, a part of the reason for this is the reduction in earning potential, which many people feel is a rather significant nerf. And of course, the earning potential has gone down, but it's still possible to earn a rather significant sum nonetheless. But perhaps the biggest issue here is the level of confusion over exactly what was changed and how the system now works. And then on top of this, when you throw into the mix the rather poor quality in-game tools, it really is little wonder that there's so many dissatisfied people over these mining changes. Now in this video I want to get into a few specifics about all this. I also want to offer up a few suggestions on how I'd like to see the in-game tools changed and improved to make this whole situation far better. So as you'll no doubt be aware, I did release a video on this earlier in the week. I don't really want to go over old ground, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much on the old topics, but I do want to address a few key points here just to highlight exactly what the problem is. So the issue, as far as I can see it, is threefold. Firstly is the reduction in earning potential, which I'm not going to touch on here just yet. Secondly is the confusion over exactly what was changed, how it was changed, and perhaps why it was changed. And thirdly is the poor quality of the in-game tools, as I've mentioned already, so let's dive in. So then, the issues with the in-game trading tools are pretty significant as far as I see it. Basically, they don't offer anywhere near the relevant level of details that we actually need. Firstly, it's very difficult to find out who sells what and who purchases what. Secondly, it's difficult to find out what sort of prices are available in terms of purchases and selling. And thirdly, any information that we can find out is very quickly outdated. So I'm going to very briefly demonstrate what the issues are here. Here we are at a commodities market. This one does purchase minerals, and we can see we've got some in stock already in our cargo hold. The numbers over on the left hand side of the brighter rows. The first problem is that we can't see on the commodity galaxy map any items that we don't actively carry. Maybe we want to go out and mine some of this to see if it's worthwhile, but you know what, we can't actually find that information out, at least not very easily or clearly there. But items that we do have in our cargo hold, we can easily find out information on. However, I do say easily, that's subjective because the range of this information is very limited. It only shows markets that we've already visited, and even then, look at this very pale blue icon. Very easily to miss that one. And not to mention the fact that the information here is limited to around about a 40 light year range, meaning that any markets we've visited outside of this radius will not show up here. So very limited and not a whole lot of use really if you're looking for a decent sell price. Alternatively, we can go directly to the galaxy map and use the commodities filters here to try and find out the equivalent information. So there is a commodities list here. We can see low temperature diamonds because we actually have them in stock. And just to demonstrate that we can see information that we don't have in stock, here's some machinery, atmospheric processors, which are available on the NPC market, and so we can see them. But any information that isn't available on the NPC market, we can't see. Alexanderite, we've actually got some of those, so we can see it here. But benitoite, we don't have in our cargo hold, and so therefore we can't actually see it on the commodities list here. Let's just see, yep, it's not available. So this really is a problem because it means we don't actually know whether it's worth going out or not to actually mine that particular commodity. And we can see on the filters down the bottom that the same information is not available. So to summarize this section, there's two very specific issues. Firstly, it's not easy to find a market that sells a specific commodity. Secondly, it's not easy to find a price at which that commodity can be sold at. Now that would be bad enough, but it's compounded by further issues. So here at Brash Colony, we're looking at the commodities market again, and we have some low temperature diamonds in stock. We've got 50 tons in our cargo hold. The station only wants 13, and they're willing to pay 249,000 credits for this, or per unit. So we want to look for a slightly higher sell price. Over on the right there, we can see other stations that I've visited previously with live market data on there. So we can see in HR 7047 at the station of the Den, we can actually sell the low temperature diamonds for 840,000 credits. Well worth the trip there, and in the ship I've actually got, it's only a single jump. And also do pay attention to the time on the market here, it's 14:24. So then, here we are at the den, just 8 minutes later. We could have probably got here a little bit quicker, but nonetheless, 8 minutes is a reasonable time frame. We're going to head to the commodities market and sell these low temperature diamonds for 800,000 credits. And look, there's zero demand here. 88,000 credits is all they're willing to purchase them for. So I really do feel that it's perfectly reasonable for any player to feel frustrated at this. Now, whilst these tools are sometimes perfectly accurate when it comes to pricing, it's not always the case, which ultimately means these tools are unreliable. And it could also be a simple case of market volatility here. Maybe in the 8 minutes it took me to get here, some other players sold the same commodity and therefore the demand just dropped right out. It was oversupplied. But again, that would mean these tools are still unreliable because they don't offer that information before you head on out. You're still taking a chance, which just doesn't make any form of logical sense. So then, let's take a look at some possible solutions. Now, one solution would be to use the external third-party game tools, head into eddb.io or Inara, and these are absolutely fantastic tools. I've recommended them many times in the past and continue to do so. However, when it comes to mining and due to market volatility, these tools are not always accurate. In fact, they're quite often not accurate. But besides, this is an in-game issue and should have an in-game solution. It shouldn't be dependent on external or third-party tools, not by any means. The third problem with the trading tools I want to address here is that there's no real easy way to access an historical record of the markets that you've visited. The only way you can do this is, as we've seen previously, just visiting the galaxy map and looking at local markets that you've already visited. There should be something or some way to access this data globally once you've already collected it. Let's move on to some potential solutions then. So what we have here then is some very old concept art that Frontier had created for Elite Dangerous during its early development phases, and this was available on the internet for quite a while. It's done the rounds all over the place, but I like to look back at it every so often because I think this is the perfect screen for market trading. So how would this be of benefit to us? Imagine that this was low temperature diamonds or void opals or something like that. How would this actually be of benefit? Well, at the top, straight away we can see fluctuations in market prices as well as potential incoming shipments. And we can see this also gives us an at-a-glance look at just how volatile this particular product is on the marketplace. Just maybe it's not worth spending some time transporting that over to this station because by the time we get there, the price might not be any good. It also gives us some indication on supply. Just maybe there's too many players with this particular commodity. Now, additionally, we've got some pricing history here. This is set to 24 months, so we can see how well this actual commodity, hydrogen, has performed in terms of price over the past 2 years. After all, as a number of people have pointed out, Elite Dangerous is often going for realism. And what's the point in this level of realism if you're not also going to back it up with pricing history? So pretty much immediately, this screen alone would solve most of the problems that I've already mentioned in this video. The only other addition would be that this data would need to be kept bang up to date. It's no good if there's a 1 hour delay on this data or a 10-minute delay or even a 5-minute delay. It would need to be bang up to date, otherwise we're back to having the same problems again. And these screens also support the idea of local market data, which we've got in the game right now and we looked at a moment ago. The only addition here would be the need to see demand before we actually head towards that local market. And finally, we need a solution to the historical market data. That is, stations we've already visited. We need a way to access that data very easily and at a glance. And surely this is what the codex could be used for. So in short, this would be an at-a-glance database built up from all the markets that we've actually visited previously. The data would of course need to be lived. Maybe it would time out after a certain period of time, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months. We'd need to revisit that station and refresh our link to it, otherwise we'd lose that link. But otherwise it would be very easy to basically have a look at everything we've so far seen previously. Without this, we just don't have a reliable, efficient or realistic way of using the data that we've collected over the time. Now naturally, I'm not saying that any of this should be easy to develop or would be easy to develop. I'm not saying that Frontier should jump out there and get this done. But what I am saying is that without decent in-game tools, we're going to continue to have confusion, disarray, and just generally people really not knowing what's going on or what to expect from their gameplay session. Now finally, at the end of this video and very briefly, I do want to talk about the changing in earning potential. It's actually hit void opal mining very hard. It was previously 1.6 million credits per ton. It's now down around about 600,000 credits per ton. But it seems that there is a factor here that not many people have considered, and I've actually been talking with the staff over at Galactic Academy about this, and they've spent a whole load of time analysing the situation and figuring things out, or at least attempt to figuring things out. One thing they've come up with is that it appears that supply is actually having a massive effect here. So in short, one of the reasons that void opals have dropped in price so much, despite in some locations still having a high demand, is the overabundance of players actually supplying them. There's many people out there mining them, and generally this is having an impact on the price, or at least potentially having an impact on the price. And some of the staff over on Galactic Academy feel that this is backed up by a few other data points. Firstly, no other commodities have dropped in quite the same way as void opals. In fact, you can go over and mine benowite now and get 1 million credits per ton very easily, and the people I spoke to over at Galactic Academy who have spent the past week examining all of this feel that one of the reasons benowite hasn't dropped in price is simply because people aren't supplying it. So in short then, the issue isn't just about demand, but also about supply. And this is further backed up by the fact that today, void opals went up to 1.3 million credits in a couple of markets, but have since unfortunately gone back down to 650,000 credits. So there's definitely people supplying void opals still, but as they drop down, as that supply reduces, it's possible that the price will increase once again. At least it's starting to look that way. It's still too early to tell, of course. It's going to need a few more weeks of data, maybe another month or so, but at the end of that, hopefully we'll have a better idea of where things stand and what's going on. So we'll have another look in the video very soon as to how to best go about making money with mining now that these changes have been introduced. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.